Welcome back, Endgame community. I'm Pierre, here to help you with some more waiver wire options post-trade deadline. A lot of action took place on August 2nd and beforehand, so let's look at some of the hitters that might benefit from some of the moves that were made and some sneaky prospects that could help you down the stretch. Let's start out with a guy that is well known across baseball and even in the fantasy football community. That's Tommy Pham. That's right, don't get into a league with Tommy Pham, but do pick him up off waivers if he's still out there. Only 50% rostered, so there's 50-50 chance that he is on your waiver wire somewhere. Look, this is a guy who had a terrible July, and who can blame him? He was on the Cincinnati Reds, kind of a sinking ship, a team that did wind up being big-time sellers at the trade deadline. All right, so in July, he only hit a 204, 0 home runs, and even he thought, well, he'd give you a little bit of speed. He wasn't even stealing bases, and in fact, he'd been caught more times than he actually stole bases over the past month. But now he's with Boston. Whether they're a contender, that's for you to decide, but it doesn't matter. It's definitely a big boost for him in terms of fantasy. Getting Rafael Devers back, look, added a couple of small pieces at the deadline, but this is a team that should be performing better. It is a good offense. It is a good situation for him, and he's got to be motivated now because at least he's got something to play for. So far already, a couple games since being traded, he's batting second in the lineup and playing left field. It seems like he's going to be an everyday player for them, hitting at the top of the order ahead of guys like Devers. That is a very good thing. So Pham, he's going to see a boost. Look, if he's still out there for some reason, this guy who can give you power and speed and a decent average, but he should also score a lot of runs based on how he's going to be used. So absolutely prioritize Pham. Here's another big name that, well, look, just bear with me. That's all I'm going to say. Joey Gallo. All right, so if you're a Yankees fan, you maybe just skip ahead because obviously you want nothing to do with him. Thankfully for him and for the team and for everyone involved, he's out of there. He goes to another really good team. That's the Dodgers, another team that is a World Series contender. So what's going to happen in LA? Well, he's probably going to get a lot of opportunities to do something, anything, because Justin Turner's on the IL. Max Muncy just really has not been himself all season. Don't think he's healthy. Chris Taylor, Edwin Rios, been on the IL for a while. They need a bat. That's obviously why they got him. They don't need him to do a lot. He's probably going to bat ninth. Look, that's fine, but you know what you're getting with Gallo. Like, he either goes deep or he strikes out. This is a chance for him really with less pressure to perform because he's not in the big stage in New York. Maybe this is going to be good for him. We'll see. I think that if nothing else, you need power. Take a shot. Like, you don't have to start him right away in fantasy, but you want a guy with massive power upside? Take a chance with Gallo because at least you know what you could potentially get out of him. All right, now let's talk about the young players, the prospects. We'll talk about the guy that I'm most interested in. I was probably way too high on him heading into this season. Thought he might be Rookie of the Year in the National League, but he hasn't been. CJ Abrams, though, now he gets a chance to play in Washington, which isn't too exciting. But you know what? For him, also a little bit less pressure now that instead of being with the team that brought him up and being thrust into like a pennant race and having to perform, now he's got really nothing to prove except that he belongs in the big league roster. Only hitting 232 this year, over 125 at-bats, and actually the biggest surprise here is the fact that a guy who has 80 grade speed, I mean, you're talking about elite speed here, and he's been a 92nd percentile for sprint speed this year. He only has one stolen base all year. It's hard to believe. But not so much when you look at the fact that the Padres rank 26th in stolen base attempts per game. They just don't run, right? And this is a team that doesn't want to or need to manufacture runs, right? Look at what they did at the deadline. They went all out and sold out for guys like Josh Bell and Juan Soto. They're looking for thump, all right? They don't want to have to run the base paths. So Abrams now on a team. Well, Washington hasn't run a lot this year, but that's because they don't have that many players who can run. I think we're going to see an increase in stolen base attempts big time, not just for them, but especially for Abrams. This is where he might start to manufacture some fantasy value. Probably going to score a lot of runs just because he's on a team that now is going to resemble maybe a AAA team. But Abrams has the talent. He's got the pedigree. Maybe this is his chance to perform. So looking for a guy with upside that could help you in the second half, I'm still interested in Abrams. Now I'm interested in Bleday of the Miami Marlins. So a guy who is a very high-end prospect. the number 4 overall pick in the 2019 draft, guy coming out of Vanderbilt, which is a college baseball powerhouse. Now, he hasn't really wowed with stats in the minors. He's been okay, but he hasn't quite lived up to the billing of where he was drafted. But he's come along, and of course, now he's got the chance. He was called up about a week ago. Didn't take him too long to hit his first home run in the majors. Hasn't done a lot since, but look, very, very short sample size so far. We know this is a guy who has that hit tool, and that's a good thing. You're not really hoping and wishing for him just to hit home runs, and you're not necessarily counting on speed. This is a guy who knows how to hit. We'll see if he does it this soon at this level. But again, the Marlins at this point have nothing to play for. He's going to be a guy who's going to get everyday playing time. He could at least help you across the board in most categories a little bit, right? I don't think he's going to be a breakout star of the second half, but this is definitely a guy who could get hot, so I would keep my eye on him. All right, a couple more young players this time. Let's get a little bit more into kind of like lotto ticket, kind of waiver wire pickup. Let's look at a guy like Elehuris Montero of the Colorado Rockies. So Chris Bryant is forever hurt. That back, I don't think, is going to heal anytime soon. Montero was just called back up. He had been up earlier, didn't really do a whole lot. We'll see the second go around if he's more comfortable. He's been ripping it up in AAA this year, hitting .310 with 15 home runs and 54 RBIs. We'll see how he does. Obviously, being in Coors Field is going to help. Rockies, not a great team, but they're pretty good offensively this year. So I think he could produce some counting stats. We'll see what happens. Again, this is more of a wait and see pick. I don't think you want to put him in your lineup right away, but keep an eye to see if he does start being productive, because he's a guy that actually does have quite a bit of upside. And then if you're in a really, really deep league, or you just want to roll those dice and see what comes up, maybe you'll strike gold with the artist formerly known as Jose Garcia, and that is Jose Barrero of the Cincinnati Reds. Just talked about how the Reds, well, they pretty much cleared house. Guys even like Brandon Drury, who've been hitting really well, gone now. There's a lot of space left in that infield. Barrero was a high-end prospect coming out of Cuba. A lot of expectations for him, and he just, well, hadn't produced really. And then in the minors this year, hasn't really produced a whole lot either, and he's been injured. Actually, he was kind of a trendy sleeper in the preseason. Then he got hurt, and then just hasn't looked the same. Don't expect much, all right? I'm just going to tell you like that. I'm not saying he will be somebody who's going to help you in fantasy, but if it comes together, if the light clicks for him, if whatever talent he's got in there decides to finally make its way out, this is a guy who really could help. Obviously, Cincinnati, that's a great ballpark to play in. As a team that in the Central Division, still one of the weaker divisions in all of baseball. He's going to get to face Pirates pitching, Cubs pitching. In a really deep league, take a shot. He's got some power. Plays shortstop. He hasn't really done a lot. Like I said, not even hitting 200 across his first 117 major league plate appearances. But again, that is such a small sample. Let's see what he can do. Maybe this, now that he knows he's got a shot to really earn a roster spot and keep it, maybe it'll turn out for him. All right, those are some of my top hitter waiver wire picks post-trade deadline. Of course, we'll keep doing this the rest of the season to try to help you take home that title this year.